What an amazing... What an amazing night to be a part of. You probably all know, you're probably all fans, but The Goodies was written and performed by Graeme Garden, Tim Brooke-Taylor and Bill Oddie from 1970 to 1982, and I think that its spirit sums up the kind of like anarchic, chaotic feel of that decade. And now, for the first time, all 7,569 episodes are available to own in a single package. There's a prize for anyone that manages to watch them all before death, but there's loads. And I'm now going to interview for an hour the three members of The Goodies. There's going to be a challenge because every single one of us on stage tonight, including me, is now wearing medically prescribed hearing aids. So this could be have a sort of slight Samuel Beckett feel to it. We'll see how it goes. Please welcome Graeme, Tim and Bill. Look, I'm going to ask, the first thing I want to ask about is, going back over these and watching them again has been really great. And I was struck by the fact that there's a really obvious dynamic in the characters, which are, I mean, I'm interested in to what extent it was contrived and worked out. It seems to reflect a social division where you have the upper classes, the middle classes and the working classes. You sort of have the Tories, the Liberals, the Labour sort of stuff. Did you make a plan? Did you think that we need to exaggerate these differences to create a dynamic, or were they there anyway?
We had to have the three, so that any subject, you could have the attitude of that people. Unfortunately, I had to be the Tory toff, because I got a double-barrel name, which is embarrassing enough anyway. But I always think I've disliked my character more than any of the others.
Yeah.
But the only thing I had in common, which I always say, was that I'm a coward like he was.
It's a question we used to get asked at the time, which is quite interesting, where people would say, to what extent are these actually based on your own characters, your own selves? And I have to admit, I always said, Tim is. Because he's the only one that I had seen in a suit and tie at that stage.
The only person in the world that you've seen.
No. And Graeme also. I mean, I don't think the leather patches on the elbows, he's not a stranger to those.
No, it's leather patches on the knees that used to worry me.
But it's sort of made explicit in that episode where you're walled in by the concrete, where you sort of take dictatorial control of the situation, Graeme, and say that you have to have a labouring class and the sort of technical class.
Yeah, well, my character was very much technical-based and science-based, and so was very logical. And if you look back over it, he always made sense.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
He's not a moral figure either, is he? He's driven by the Graeme Garden character. He's driven by cruel, practical logic rather than... He's not sentimental. He doesn't have a value system.
Actually,
no, he doesn't. No.
He was a mad scientist, basically, is what it was.
Graeme has got many talents. We have to admit, both Tim and I, that Graeme can do all sorts of things that we can't do. Well, that used to be true anyway, but...
None of us could do that.
But it was his skills at things which actually really made him stand apart and dictate what he did in the shows, you know, because he was a brilliant magician and various things.
He's not dead, you know, he keeps saying he was. It's not a tribute to him.
Watch. And he was also very cruel in a very, very dispassionate way. That's always my favourite bits of Graeme. I mean, if there's a very simple example, if there was a dog, for example, to be sent somewhere, he'd have it all wrapped up in brown paper. And I love that element of cruelty. That's one of
logic. But logical.
Not really, no.
It's a good way to send a dog, isn't it?
See, I was wondering to what extent these characters were contrived, but seeing the three of you together now, they're clearly not. They're just... It's just how you... Graeme still doesn't understand what was funny about them. He thought it was a kind of drama with two ridiculous people hampering his plans.
He was the mad scientist, basically what he was, and he was mad most of the time. But so were we.
But there wasn't. Was there a planning stage where you thought we need to make these sort of polarised? Because another thing that's interesting about it compared to the characters have obvious sort of political positions, but in the modern world, well, certainly in the last decade, everything sort of drifted towards the centre, didn't it? And I don't know what... They wouldn't be as immediately obvious stereotypes of social polarisation to people.
I mean, it was really, I think, when it comes down to it, in a way, it's dictated by the costumes.
Right.
I don't mean what we happen to have in the wardrobe.
What do you mean, what you turned up
hello, what's this, a grass skirt? All right, I'll be a Maori or something. No, it didn't work like that. But I think I, by nature anyway, was a sort of sub-hippie. Yeah. I'm going to say a hoppy. What's a hoppy? It sounds fun, that, doesn't it? And I dressed that way anyway. So, I mean, I'd chosen the character by the costume. It's not quite so true of these two, because obviously theirs was a very caricature-specific costume.
There's a sort of family relationship as well. I mean, it looks like, looking at it again, it looks like mother, father, and a little babe, naughty baby. Whether that was... Well, I wondered whether that was something...
You're hoping to come back, are you?
No, I was wondering whether that...
I'd just like to say he was a mistake.
I mean, is that why the two of you stayed together?
In a way, yeah.
I think that's true, but actually childishness, of course, is a very key thing in the whole series, and was often misconstrued in many ways. And I think it was Frank Muir made one of the remarks which, and I think we all treasure. He said, it's the childlike world of the goodies, not the childish world of the goodies. And I think that was a really clear way of putting it. You know, it's like being a cartoon or something.
Well, it doesn't self-consciously drop the names of famous philosophers and historians in the way that a lot of your contemporaries...
Whom are you getting at?
Well, it's much more honest than that, I think. You're not trying to prove to an audience that you are educated by making illusions. You're expecting the work to stand on its own...
Well, no, they just dropped the names of the philosophers. Yeah. We attacked the philosophy.
Yeah.
I think we all know who you're talking about here. This insidious comparison, but
I was trying to dig you out of a hole because I felt you.
Why?
No, I felt you.
I'm not going in a hole. I promise you. No. But there was this thing. We might as well get it out of the way that we were always getting this thing about Python or us, and the ridiculous thing was that there were a lot of people felt they had to make a choice. You know, and you said, well, watch them both for Christ's sake. You know?
No, it was like, you know, do you prefer the Beatles or the Goodies?
Yeah. I was going to ask about this later, actually, but given that it's...
Shift the running order.
I think that when the dust settled, the Goodies' legacy will stand the way that the trivia of the Beatles will be blown away. I mean, what is interesting is that, to my generation, the Goodies was the main comedy show. I mean, your viewing figures were enormous, like massive, and that was the thing. People weren't, you know, those other people from the satire boom that were on late at night were getting a fraction of the figures you were. So you were massively in the public consciousness. I'm
always trying to come up with pretentious little ways of summing up this situation, and my start with it. My one with that was, I said, the Python make albums and we make singles. And what I meant with it's quite clever. It's quite clever because you don't sell that many of the albums, but people really love them, you know. Yeah. But with a single, you sell an awful lot. And in fact, of course, we crossed over into the music world, did sell a lot of singles and so on and so forth. And I think it plays against you in a way, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you literally did make singles, didn't you? I mean, you were on all these other programmes as well, not just the Goodies. We were really aware of you being on Top of the Pops and...
Oh, I hope he'd forgotten all that.
No, I'm going to come
We were
back to-
prouder of that than anything else. Come on.
Well, that's...
On top of the pots with pants people, what more could you ask?
Well, it does come back to the different sorts of characters, I think, because one of the subtext of Bill's, I think, is that you feel like the character and you were a sort of frustrated bohemian. He felt like he should be doing something else, and certainly I wondered why. There seems to be a disproportionate amount of detail and work that's gone into the music for the Goodie, given that it's there as background music. The people you're playing with on it were amazing.
I hope you felt it was worth it.
Huh?
I hope you felt it was worth it.
Yeah.
I had you in
Made
mind.
him go deaf.
I mean, I love the music, though I speak as someone with severely reduced hearing.
Well, unfortunately, as these two and most of London, if not the country, know, give me half a chance and I'll rattle on about it for a couple of hours.
Well, let's come back to it, because it's interesting. No, again, talking about the character breakdowns, Tim, you do sort of... You fit, of the three of you, you fit that... You're the most obvious choice for the upper-class stereotype. This is the details I pulled off Wikipedia. You were Footlights president. It's not possible to be more Oxbridge than to be Footlights president.
So was Graeme.
Graeme was as well. That's been removed from Wikipedia then.
By me, actually.
It also says you were expelled from a private school at the age of 5.
5.5.
5.5.
Come from a legal family. My mother said, dear, you weren't expelled, you were asked to leave.
Right. Are you able to say
What did you do?
what it was you did that was...
Well, there were really basically only two of us in this girls' school.
Oh, right.
Robert and myself. And our mistress was called Miss Smeller, who became Miss Smeller and Miss Smelly in no time at all. And also because every Thursday the girls would go and do brownies. And Robert and I had to go and... Actually, it sounds terrible, go and do brownies. But anyway, we did. Good boy, Tim, he's done a brownie. Anyway, it was awkward, so I was asked to leave.
Right. Just because there was only 2 boys?
Basically.
But you weren't expelled for some crime, then? Just a crime of gender?
I'd rather not say on television.
All right, OK.
You thought of it, though, didn't you? That's the thing.
Now, he said, Graeme, again, you've masked this well in the character of your sort of middle-class people. You went to Repton, a top public school, famous for the tradition of fagging and cock of the school.
Is that what it was called?
I couldn't find... Yeah, what was that, the cock?
I've no idea. I've never heard of that. Is that Wikipedia again?
Yeah. Well, look, Clarkson went there, Jeremy Clarkson. He said during his time at Repton, he was forced to lick the toilets clean, to defecate in his tuck box and to cut up his clothing, and that was just by the teachers. So it's... But was it a very severe environment?
Only for him.
Right. So you can't say that you were driven into comedy through childhood cruelty or anything like that?
Well, no, I was driven into cruelty through childhood. Not into comedy, no.
Right. And then the music stuff was obviously very important to you.
Yeah.
And the character we feel was this sort of...
And don't I get a chance to say what school it went to? I mean,
but
come on.
The thing is...
Come on, I'm rather proud of it.
Yeah, but it's not attached... Not got a stereotype attached to it.
Well, they're not the stereotype. It was not a stereotype, but go on.
Very smart school, King Edward's, Birmingham.
Yes, it was a very smart school. King Edward's School in Birmingham. So
when I grew up in Birmingham, they were always the girls who wanted to go out with the ones from King Edward's.
The girls...
Yeah, they were the clever...
Next door.
Yeah.
You had the boys... We needn't tell them this. They can dream. The boys' school there and a girls' school there, and just a little...
Were they all midgets?
...gap in between. Yes, I'm nervous, that's why. Yeah, and it was a very high-powered school, but I absolutely loved it. But it wasn't, technically speaking, a public school, and it wasn't a boarding school. That's one of the differences. You were both boarders, weren't you?
They used to go to the headmaster's conference, though, to be technical.
Yes, I know, but that doesn't matter.
Do you think there's something about coming from the Midlands that gives you a certain perspective? Do you think you always feel like an outsider to some extent? You're not from the south, you're not from the north, and also there's no cultural credit attached to having a Midlands accent.
No, it's true.
Is there a large chip on your shoulder?
Yeah.
If you come from the middle, you can't be an outsider, surely.
No.
Very clever.
That's exactly the cold, harsh logic we expect.
Yeah,
water.
what do you think, Tim? Tim was from Derbyshire, basically.
Yes.
So.
Buxton.
Buxton, yes.
That's got an opera house, though.
It's got an opera house, it's got beautiful
I
scenery.
used to hate water as a child and always forced it, and now people buy it in bottles.
Yeah. It was just bubbling out of the ground, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. They used to wash the buses with it. Mind you, they were very clean buses.
I can't personally say that I had a great affinity to Birmingham as such. You know, I just went to the 2 or 3 places I like.
But you've gone on their walk of fame, I noticed. Isn't there a star for you in the floor?
Is that where the school?
No, by the old ATV studios, aren't you in the...
I don't know. It's nice news if I am. What, along with Buster Keaton?
Chris Tarrant.
The Queen and all that. Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah. No, OK, I'm sorry, I assumed there was.
No, it might be true, it might be true.
They'd have told you, wouldn't they?
We got big things to compete with in Birmingham and at my school. Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's heavy, yeah. Tolkien went to my school, you don't give a damn.
True.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you went to pitch this, I think you'd all worked together in various combinations between finishing university and doing the goodies on all these famous radio shows. And what was the original pitch for who was in charge of comedy?
It was Michael Mills.
Michael Mills, yeah.
Well, originally, there was a show that Graeme and I were doing called Broaden Your Mind, which was an encyclopedia of there, which is just an excuse for different sketches.
Yeah.
And we did 2 programmes of that. Bill was in quite a lot of it. And then they said, we'd like another series, but could it be slightly different, meaning could it be a lot funnier?
Yeah.
And about the same time, the Python started. The thing with a sketch show is you got a subject, you reach a climax, then you've got to start all over again, punchline. So the idea, Python's got around it brilliantly, but usually Graham Chapman coming on saying, this is getting silly, let's do something completely different. Yeah. And we thought, well, if we could keep the sketches there but link them with a storyline, then we wouldn't have those ups and downs. That was the basic idea.
Yeah, it was the influence, I suppose, of the shape of sitcoms, which tend to have that storyline. But as Tim said, the comedy itself was more appropriate in a sketch show.
Yeah, silly comedy. The basic pitch was 3 blokes who do anything, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And Michael Mills said, well, that's an idea I get on my desk every week. That and the German version of Dad's Army.
Right.
I must say, I'd like to see that, actually.
He said, but I think you guys could pull it off, so go and make a series.
Well, in the first
we
episode...
said, yeah, we'll go and
pass
pass up our German accents.
Yeah. In the first episode, the premise is made clear. In the Tower of London episode, it's dealt with very quickly. We understand that Tim's aunt has left you an amount of money. You've designed this lab stroke sort of bat cave den that they live in.
Yes.
And then Bill puts adverts up everywhere. It's not really referred to again much for the next 12 years.
No.
You feel like that'll do. We don't really know how they've met or who they are. And kind of admirable lack of detail, I felt. It just sort of speeds on into the set.
You know that you're, as a writer, or writers doing comedies, you know things are getting worrying and thin if you start having flashbacks and looking back. You know, nearly every sitcom that's ever been has lasted for about 4 years, which is usually 3 years too many. And they say, what are we going to do in the last show? And they say, oh, I know, we'll all go to Spain. And they always go somewhere completely different. Yeah. And so I don't think we ever felt that we wanted to go.
We did that in about episode 2, didn't we?
Yeah.
I read somewhere that one of the inspirations for it was this idea that around that time there were a lot of programmes like The Persuaders or the Avengers, where there were sort of groups of do-gooders who seemed to be allowed to operate outside the law. Yeah. And one piece that I found, someone said that you had the idea for the name, Bill, whilst getting out of the bath. What was it that you saw getting out of the bath?
Are there any children here?
It's a fact of, again, comedy in general and records and so on and so forth, that you can spend far more time trying to come up with the name of something than actually doing whatever it is, making a record and making a programme. And so we had days, you know. And Python did the same thing. They came up, what was it? Owl stretching time?
Owl stretching time.
Yes, wonderful. And we had the same sort of thing, and I came up with, it's embarrassing even to say it, Super Chaps 3.
That sounds like a bad translation of the name of the Goodies.
Oh, Super Chaps 3, yes, very popular in Norway or something like that. And I was so embarrassed, and they were so scathing of me. I thought, it's up to me. I've got to do something better. And it was one of those things I can only say. I woke up in the middle of the night in bed and suddenly thought, Goodies, and that was it. The Goodies as opposed to the Baddies and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and it sounds like a group of something.
Yeah, that was also worryingly intentional. You probably see this thing slowly seeping through, that whenever I had a chance to sneak a bit of music of one sort on a music illusion, then I would do it. And yes, Goodies was meant to echo with Monkeys and Beatles and Rolling Stonies and all that sort of thing.
I was surprised to read that the first episode went out at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, because it always seemed...
Well, that was the sort of time we were going to go out, always. It was never a family programme, it was a late-night programme. But the great thing was, in a way, is that it was originally our best time, we got our best audiences, was 9 o'clock, opposite the 9 o'clock news, right, not the 9 o'clock news. And that was the best time of all, because it allowed families to watch it, but people come up to me that look about 90 and say, I was allowed to stay up to watch you, which is incredibly depressing.
I remember the first one I saw was about 6, and Donna, who was in my class at school, was sitting on a desk eating a biscuit, saying, are you going to watch the Goodies tonight? It's the Beanstalk one. This would have been February 75. I didn't know what the Goodies were, but I was anxious to impress Donna, this woman who had a biscuit. And so I said, yes, I am. And I went home and watched it, and I couldn't believe that such a thing was allowed to be on. It was so insane. I was so happy that something like that was being made in the world. It seemed so crazy and fun, and there must have been so many people that had that experience of coming across it.
Have you met Donna since?
No, I don't know what she's doing.
I'd like to.
Yeah. There's biscuits backstage. But it sort of... It's interesting that it could build up the cult that it did in an age where people weren't sharing clips online there weren't things going viral, but a lot of the clips used to get shown on things like they'd be requests on programmes earlier on in the daytime, wouldn't there? It sort of leaked forwards in time into the public consciousness. Kids would ask to see clips of it on kids' shows.
Oh, yes, they probably...
Yeah, Ask Aspel or whatever it was called, wasn't it?
Yeah. Ask Aspel, Hello, Jimmy...
The 70s was actually... The 70s was actually quite an interesting time. In fact, I was having a lunch with Jack Dee and his daughter in Bristol. She's studying history there. And I said, what are you studying? She said, the 70s. Which is basically us. So we're historical.
I suppose really it's to do with a programme being successful has to have an atmosphere which you can... It's just like a record. I really do think it is, you know. You instantly know. Graeme made a very sage remark some years ago and said, you could... It's only one, but still. and he said, it was either him or somebody else who said, you hear the Goodies theme somewhere, you know, and people go, that's the Goodies. And you know what the programme was just by the sort of sound of the music itself, the silly sound effects, and my voice saying, you're ruining my bloody song.
I found a thing online which was extracts from the script of the first show, which was really interesting, the way that it described precisely what the room was going to be like. It was a very clear idea on paper of what the room was going to be like. And then at the point where you go into one of the speeded-up bits, I think it's the first time you get on the triple-seater bike.
Oh, God, yeah.
It says, scene 2, film undercranked, song over. And there's a very clear description of how this is how you're going to physically achieve the effect by undercranking the film, of making this have that silent movie quality. And so it seems like it was really in the forefront of your minds, this
there was
silent comedy cut.
Absolutely, and there was one flaw in the stage directions at that point, which was the next thing was they ride off.
Yeah.
That should have been...
They fall.
They fall off.
To be honest, that's one of the enjoyable things about the slapstick in the Goodies, is that it's clearly beyond your ability. There's a lot of people being physically, obviously harmed.
Yeah,
I watched one again today, the bun fight one, where you try to fall off a toy donkey, and you have no training in that whatsoever. He's quite badly hurt.
Graeme is magnificent to that sort of thing, and we thought he was immune, you know, we thought he could fall over and he would never be hurt because he knew what he was doing. Well, one day we had a stunt man come along to do one or two things that were too dangerous, and the stunt man went off with Graeme, and Graeme said, show me what to do, you know, to do fall. I've got to fall. And the stuntman said, well, you've got this thing which it's like a cushion type thing. So we'll strap on your back underneath your coat, and then it'll be fine. So Graeme starts filming. He's on this donkey, as you say, an immovable...
No, it was his death.
It was being shot by the tomato sauce bit.
As you do.
I thought it was the... Oh, no, it was.
It was the
I'm sorry.
It's the same show you watched this afternoon, yeah.
Different show.
And he had elbow pads as well.
Anyway, there he is on the donkey. No, he's not. There he is. Oh, you've thrown me now. There he was, and eventually he gets squirted with tomato sauce, if you remember it. But the thing is, he's supposed to do this fantastic fall backwards. Now, that's going to be dangerous, you know, to do it backwards, which is why he'd had in some instruction to have this pillow on his back. And we go for the take, squirty, squirty. Graeme goes up into the air, almost in slow motion, turns round and comes down, boom, flat on his face. And oh, did we laugh.
I think we still are, aren't we?
But that's one of the things that is still really funny about the speeded-up slapstick sequences, is the technical expertise in terms of editing and special effects isn't there for you to cheat anything.
No.
And if it had been 10, 15 years later, things would have been tweaked. And they're funny in the same way as the old silent films are. It's probably the last time in TV that you were in genuine danger and at risk, and you can see that there's not too much. There's little bits of tweaking of film going.
I mean, people, as you said, people who do it digitally and so on and so forth really couldn't believe that some of the stuff we had to use, how primitive it was. Yeah. One of the catchphrases when we were filming was, mind the wires. And that meant that there was a cable or something, or there was an invisible fishing line or something going across the shot, and we're going to pull it, and something's going to run across like that, you know. And anybody who goes over it will garrot themselves if you be careful. So there were things like that, which it was so basic. That's all we could do.
What we found was that if we got stuntmen, we didn't want them to do it because they knew how to get round it, whereas when we did it, you could see it hurts.
Yeah.
And it did hurt.
You can see that it hurt, and it was a time-consuming struggle.
Well, people say you must have loved riding that tandem, as we call it. And it was the most unpleasant thing we've ever been on done. To start with, it was a tandem with Bill sitting on the back. And if you think about it, it was a tandem. Graeme and I are going right, left, Bill's going wherever he feels. So
yeah, Bill was just luggage.
He was, yeah. But it had no free wheel and no brake.
Yeah.
So we would have to try to go 20 feet across the scene, but then something would go, wouldn't it?
No, but you know, I mean, if you do a show now, you have a risk assessment, which is probably, the Goodies would be about 3 times as long as the script.
Yeah.
I did a voiceover for an animation recently and got a script assessment thing which said it'll be recorded in a studio with cables on the floor. Trip hazard. You know, I mean...
So we wouldn't be able to do it
we
now,
wouldn't be allowed to do it, no.
No, you wouldn't have been... You wouldn't not be allowed to make those programmes now.
I think that's true. I think an awful lot of the programmes that whatever it's called, health and safety and that sort of thing, wouldn't have let us do. Definitely.
And rightly so.
I mean, we risked our lives frequently for the merest of chuckles.
We're still here, though, Bill. Yeah.
I'm going to I'm going to ask about some individual shows, and we'll see if anything comes up. Kit and Kong is a really good example of the sorts of things you're talking about, of different film techniques being cut together, of special effects, of ill-prepared stunts, all cut together. I know that the version we've got isn't the original; it's a sort of slightly remixed version that was for the Montreux submission. Yeah. But I mean, to attempt that in 1971, the CGI wasn't there, the models weren't there. It must have been. I mean,
well, funnily enough, as it happens, it was me, I suppose, had an audition, accidental audition for that idea, because I was writing for Ronnie Barker at the time, on and off. He wrote most of his stuff himself, but I would hand in sketches, and I gave him this sketch, which was of him taking a kitten for a walk on a lead, and then the kitten gets cross, chases a bird or something, and pulls him away. Now, that's kind of reminiscent, because fortunately, he said, bless him, he said, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that, you know, I'm just not fit enough. And so he turned it down, and we developed it from there. That's how Kit and Kong started.
Right.
Yeah,
It
wasn't a real kitten.
No, in that it isn't. When you. It's great. It's great watching that real kitten having to attack tiny models of you, and then we cut to the real. I mean, it's.
There was a time when we were in the studio hanging from wires on that tandem.
Oh, damn.
And suddenly it broke, and I was caught by my wrist and blood pouring out of my wrist, and they took me upstairs to the nurse, who was French. And I tried to explain to them that I was on a bicycle in the air with a giant kitten attached to me, and my grand chat a souris et sur la bicyclette did not appeal. She said, piss off.
That image is such an instantly recognisable thing, isn't it? To people all over the place.
If you go to the post office tower, you can buy mints in a box with the Kit and Kong on the top. I'm plugging it for them.
Yeah.
But we were kind of pioneering things like blue screen at the time, because it was in the early days of colour television, so blue screen was only just coming in. And some of that was film with what they called axial front projection.
Say that again.
So it was all,
What was it?
Axial front projection. It wasn't a real cat that big.
I didn't want to do this evening. I knew it was going to disillusion me.
A person we must mention is Jim Franklin, who was the original editor, film genius, who worked all the way through. He was originally just an editor, and then he became super producer or whatever, but he was still doing the same job, and he did so much of that stuff. And we were very lucky. The BBC at the time had very good visual effects departments, wardrobe, makeup.
Yeah.
And they worked there only for less money, but they were much happier.
And I think this is the most satisfying thing, sounding a bit sentimental, I think, for people who do a show, is that most of the people, the technicians, etc., really liked being on the show. You know, it was really satisfying to say, oh, I hope I'm on the next series. Or,
except the guy who was doing the designs, it was so exhausted at the end of one. He said, I'm terribly sorry, that's the last one I do. Next time he was queuing up to get onto him.
But they must have been asked to basically do a lot of things for the first time. Well, that hadn't really been done before.
When we wrote it, we figured out ways of doing things ourselves. Said, you know, we can do that with a blue screen or do that with whatever. So they couldn't say it can't be done.
Yeah.
But usually they came up with a better way of doing it, and that's what they enjoyed, was taking on the challenge.
Well, also, given that your backgrounds for a previous decade were in radio, it makes a real leap towards thinking about how do these things work visually. It's not a dialogue-heavy thing. It goes in hand with the images and action. And
funny enough, that some of the episodes I like most, like the end, are just in one room. But we were driven to that. But you're right.
Yeah. No. Well, I was going to ask about that one. And that's an interesting one. I mean, it's got a feeling of a piece of absurd theatre. You know, at the end where you're trapped in the one room by the concrete. And of course, for a lot of sitcoms, that's a stylistic exercise now, isn't it? They'll do one in every series where the people are in a car together. For you, reading between the lines, it was because you'd spent everything on
That was right.
kittens.
That's right.
He had to, like...
That's exactly right. It was.
And do you recall in that episode, there's a lot of jokes about saying the Queen will never give you OBEs and things like that.
Yeah.
And she's not going to sling an OBE around your neck, Tim says at one point to everyone else. And now I think you all have OBE.
I won't be able to risk this.
He's got it on.
Incidentally... There you go. Of course, mine isn't as shiny as Tim and Graeme's because mine's much older. I got mine a long time ago for services to conservation, and they got theirs, well, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think. It was, for services to...
Hasn't arrived yet.
Comedy, yes.
Light entertainment.
Light entertainment, yes.
Light entertainment, yes.
We did used to despise the OBs because they were being given to 23-year-olds who'd done nothing at all. Yeah. That's why we used to sneer. And now, when we were offered it, we went, thank you very much.
I've never seen anyone wearing one.
Well, I thought, what's the bloody point in having it if you don't... Flash it about. Can I ask these two a question? I don't think I ever have. Did you get the Queen, or did you get a lesser royal?
Well, it depends what you mean by a lesser royal.
Oh, you know, there's nobody lesser than the Queen. Did you get the Queen?
Princess Anne gave me mine.
Oh, I see.
And she said... And,
I don't even want to know.
No. She said, I'm very pleased to see you here.
Oh.
I told my friend John Naismith that, and he said, well, she probably says that to everyone she doesn't recognise.
Tim, was yours Princess Anne?
No, mine was Charlie Boyce.
Charlie Boy.
Who offered to marry me. When we did, there was...
Not then.
Not then, no, but earlier on, I told him we were doing this thing about Rolf Harris and the Queen saying, who will rid me of this plague of Rolf Harris's? Well, have my son, Charles, and I told him about it. I'll do that, if you like. I'll tell him. Then wiser counsels prevailed. That's mothers for you, and he didn't do it.
No. But I've got to say, but I had the Queen, of course. And
when you say had the Queen...
I had the... And it was a memorable occasion because we were all standing outside, as I'm sure you did, people who are going to get whatever they're going to get, and inside you can hear the band playing, and I thought that was records or something like that. You know, she said, can I have my latest album? I like that. Can I play that? So, in fact, I stepped up to her at the end of the queue to the strains of There Is Nothing Like a Dame. Extracts from South Pacific, and then I made the worst faux pas ever because the chap who, whatever they call the equerry or something like that, has told you how to do it, said whatever you do, don't turn your back on Ma'am, or Her Majesty, that's Ma'am, you know. Don't turn your back on her. OK, no, that's fine, I won't. So, of course, the inevitable happened because I go up there and she's there and I go, yes, Ma'am, and she says, I expect you like your birds just as much as I enjoy my dogs. That's what she said. I said, yes. What is that? And then she put the thing on, put the thing around my neck, and I said, thank you very much. Oh, shit! A deft Fred Astaire.
An extra thing, I misheard you, what you said there, and I thought he kind of said that. I thought you said the Queen said to you, I expect you enjoy your birds as much as I enjoy my dwarfs.
No.
Dogs, yeah.
No.
OK, let's...
They're auditioning right now.
Kung Fu Capers was another one I really liked watching again. Eki Thump, the Lancashire Kung Fu. And there was lots of great visual references to the martial arts films of the time. Were you out and about seeing those for references? Did you go and look at them, or was it from the directors?
We sort of knew about them anyway.
Yeah. Yes. We just knew they were there, really, you know.
There's also a bit in that that's very like a Kurosawa, where it goes to black and white, and we see the banners.
Yeah.
flying.
Oh, yes, and marching to...
Yeah.
And again, did those sort of ideas come from you, or were they things that were suggested by directors?
No,
they came from us.
I think they're probably in the script, yeah.
The best moments, I remember that, and Tim will remember even more, with the flat hats. And this was a perfect example of working with the costume department, because we go in there and we say, this bit, and we had a meeting on every script. They go through every detail. And I said, it says big flat hats here. And they said, yes, that's right, big flat hats, you know, not a little one, big flat hat. And they come back in next day and they've got one about this big, you know. I said, that's okay, but it's not big enough. Well, can you make a bigger one? Really big. How big? It's that big. And it took about 4 or 5 days before they finally came in with something that big. And we all wore it eventually. So.
We did kill someone.
I know, yeah. You killed Alexander Mitchell of King's Lynn. Laughed to death at it.
His wife told the vicar at that she would like to write a letter to the Goodies to thank them for making her husband's last few hours happy. It's lovely. And then the press came on a recording day. How do you feel about this man dying?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, but isn't what happened that his heart attack was on the way anyway.
Yeah,
it was merely brought forward a bit by. I don't think
it wasn't a personal attempt.
Down.
Yeah.
No consolation.
But you know what? That will have become a treasured anecdote now. In that, it really will.
Yeah.
It'll be a great thing to have that. It'll take the curse off the tragedy that it's attached to in watching people hitting each other with black pudding. Go on. Sorry. Here's an interesting thing. I don't know how you feel about this. All this stuff's out there. It's all going to be out there. It's great that the release of all the series together will give it a context. But there are things like, for example, the 1975 South Africa episode, where the intent is obviously to satirise apartheid. But what that will look like out of context in it is there are language and images which, to a modern audience, will appear like something you wouldn't do now that would be problematic. And I understand what the intent is, and the intent is to satirise apartheid, but it still does have you blacked up, for example.
Yeah, no, and we also, there was another programme which I think was even more satirical, because obviously that was the point, about the black and white minstrel show.
Right.
And we turned into minstrel of all colours, as it were. And of course, what we were saying is, could you believe that there is a black and white minstrel show still going? And in the same with the South African programme, it was basically criticising the South African police in particular, who were getting very violent. And I remember when we got called in, I'm sure the guys do too, when we got called in before the beak, as it were, and they said, no, I don't think we can put this one out. And we said, why not? Why not? Is it, the South African police, you're being a bit unfair on. What?
So it wasn't the problem you thought you were going to be.
No, quite. And so we were very canny. We said, he said, no, I don't mean that. It's just, it's not as funny as you normally do. Not as funny, you know. So we said, all right. Give us till tomorrow. We'll come back with another half dozen, a dozen jokes, and you can have a look at that. And if you can still say that's not funny, then we'll argue again. And to be fair to them in a way, or maybe they were being not quite so fair to us, I don't know, but they then passed it. And so it went out on a sort of censored version, but with added material.
You're right, though. Nowadays, there are certain things that we did in it which we were sending up, which we'd be embarrassed talking nignogs and things like that. But things like go through door and turn white, things like that.
But I mean, the thing is that language was in the currency of the everyday, and that's sort of what people forget, that it was... I mean,
somebody recently said you couldn't make that show now.
Yeah.
To which the reply is, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to. That's a really...
That's right.
In the last week, I watched an episode that I'd never seen before, that I think is a hidden gem of the Goodies canon, and I'm sure there's loads out there now that the entire collection's been put out. Punky Business from 1977, which will take some decoding for the modern viewer, in as much of a lot of it is based around a parody of Rock Follies, these short-lived women's rock drama series, which
It's doubly unintelligible. Yes.
But it's also a parody of the idea that punk was the latest of a number of fads, and that what it did was inverted conventional norms of what entertainment should be. But it seems to have given you the excuse to do a sort of Fellini-esque, mad, carnival-like episode, and there's so many brilliant costumes in it, a strange variety act, which is you basically attacking your own genitals with tools. The pumpkin-headed thing. I mean, it's the excuse is that it's attached to. Oh, this is what punk was like.
Can we quote?
Like that.
Can we quote you with Fellini-esque? Oh, no.
But it is. It reminded me actually of the sequence in Rome where there's the papal fashion parade. You just get this odd sequence of these bizarre dressed characters going to this to this sort of strange carnivalesque ball. I mean, it's like a surrealist film, which is a word that's wasted, I think, surrealist. But that does seem to be. Have that feel to it. It seemed to have set you free, this idea that you could do a punk thing. To just do...
I mean, sometimes you just think... that would look funny, that would sound funny, that would be funny, and you don't really think about why. You must have done that.
Yeah, but I mean... I like the fact that you've got Jane Asher in that. She very sort of anchors it with a brilliant sort of... She tries to do proper acting in the middle of loads of pumpkin-headed people. And
very unpunk.
Yeah.
She was very good.
You're right. That's the sort of programme that we sometimes I got asked about. Once we were filming down in Jersey, and I'd heard a band in a pub there and said, could I come and sit in for a bit? And I said, yeah, of course. And as we were walking across, the guy said, you know that programme you do about punk? I said, yeah. I said, what are you blokes on? What are you taking? I said, nothing. He said, come on, of course. I simply wouldn't have it, you know, that we were obviously drug-crazed surrealists. If only they knew.
Well, what were you on, if not?
No.
BBC Two.
I think it was more £30 a week, actually.
The last individual show I'm going to ask, because I know we've got to wrap up the first half soon. I looked at Bigfoot again, which is the one I remember best from the ITV series. Were you on bigger budgets for ITV for the last series, or for LWT?
They were, I think, but that's because everything cost more for ITV.
Right. But there seems to be more location filming. Yeah,
they didn't have the same sort of setup that the Beeb had, so everything had to be subcontracted.
They didn't have their own internal staff.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's nice that you've been so generous towards all the designers and everything that work with you, but the LWT ones, had to be individually contracted, so it would cost more.
We used to make a fuss, you know, and funny enough, I had exactly the same experience in my second life for doing wildlife programmes. You get a little team of technical people, a cameraman, soundman, and a few others, you know.
And the BBC have their own aviary.
Yeah. Silly boy.
But it looked slicker than the...
I think that was... I think I agree, and I think we were... That wasn't an ITV one, was it?
Bigfoot, yeah.
It was, you see. I think Bob Spears, God rest him, who sadly died, I think it was last year, was our producer, who I think was... perhaps not as inventive as Jim Franklin, but he had an eye for film as much as just putting sequences together tape-wise, you know, and comedy-wise. So I feel most of that ITV series actually looks better somehow, you know.
Yeah.
It's very good. Well, yeah. And Bigfoot, yeah, I mean, they're not exotic locations, but they're very good locations, aren't they?
Yeah.
It was Brecon Beacons, actually.
Yeah.
The last thing I'm going to ask about is, obviously, in that period, if you were a fan of comedy or film or anything, you experienced it in the moment, in the cinema or as it was broadcast on television, and then it went away. You weren't going to see... There was no VHS, there certainly weren't DVDs, there wasn't YouTube. And so you were often very reliant for your sort of fandom on the ephemera that surrounded the programmes, and the Goodies books were amazingly detailed bits of work. Well, they were. I mean, I used to...
I know, but it's pathetic.
I used to pore over it. Because they were quite like a punk rock cut up collage paste. Sort of. What was your... At what point did you sign those off? Were you involved in the layout and design?
Totally, yeah.
We had a sort of Goodies annual produced by the sort of commercial company that produced the Blue Peter annual and everything, and that was so embarrassingly awful.
Terrible.
We said, right, if we do another book, we're going to write it all and have as much control as possible, which is what we did from then onwards. The Goodies File, I think, was the first one, wasn't it?
I think, fortunately, if I may say so, Graeme is a particularly good artist, and I'm quite a bad artist, but nevertheless can do enough.
I can't do any
some of the illustrations.
I just do the funny stuff.
Tim can't do anything.
Did you do the cutting out?
He's a very good
Just
reader.
looks pretty.
We actually were hoping to make a film, and we were promised, and we actually wrote one of them, which was the making of the Goodies disaster movie. It was actually meant to be leading towards a movie, and it was paid for by the people that were going to do the film, and then they said, no, sod it.
And then you were left with the book.
Yes, which...
So it's a film tie-in book, but the film never happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, we wrote a script, didn't we, of the actual film?
We did.
I've tried to blank that fact, but yes.
Yeah.
So there's a draft of a film script of the disaster.
Somewhere.
I've got it, but I won't sell it to anybody unless they make it worth my while.
Will you sit and watch the? Is it 76 episodes? Will you sit? Is it something you're keen?
I should be running at the time next to it, yes, watching it. No, I don't know. It's one of those things, it's rather sad if you watch yourself on television. So I sort of get my grandchildren, perhaps you'd like to see this, would you? There's me watching it. And they go, I'm bored.
Oh, well, I've had these on at home all the time, right, lately, and my 7-year-old, it's really interesting watching, because particularly with the slapstick stuff, because they're used to seeing things that look faked because they've got CGI and whatever, and I think it's hilarious. She's astounded by it because of the levels of danger that...
What a bright girl this is.
Yeah. But, well, yeah, so it's something you're not uncomfortable about watching them all again or revisiting them?
Some I probably won't watch.
I think the later on it is, when you, at the time, you'd watch it and think, oh, we wanted to film that, but it rained, and you think of all the negatives. Now, I'm amazed.
Yeah. Yeah.
These young men, what can they do?
I think one might be reassessing some of them, and we have had some of them down the years, but along the lines of one that you thought was really good, and you look at it and think, God, that's awful, isn't it? And equally the other way around.
Yeah.
And you think, that was pretty crap, and then you watch it and think...
That was really awful.
It was really good. Oh, I set them up for you.
I think the worst image I have is the Funky Giver, us in dungarees. I'm still embarrassed.
I like what I love about the Top of the Pops and the pop music appearances is Bill's obvious delight. That's what he really wants to do, and Graham's clear discomfort.
I was holding back.
Well, yeah.
I didn't want to show them up with my... Because I could have cut some shapes, but I didn't want to show them up with my fancy disco moves, you know.
Look, perhaps we could see a few of them this evening.
Yeah. I'm going to bring this bit to a close, so please thank Graeme, Bill and Tim.